Good afternoon. Welcome to GenderSpeaker Live, and it's the 30th of September. It's my final show in my 30-day challenge, but good news is I'm going to keep this going afterwards. Let's find out what I'm doing. So good afternoon. Welcome to this show again. It's been 30 days. It's been quite a challenge keeping that going. I've missed the 4 o'clock deadline just twice, managed to get in by about 5:30. And I'm going to keep these going in the future, but not at that kind of daily pace because there are other things I want to start trying to do. So today I'm going to be talking about awareness training. I've got one course coming up and we'll look at that in a moment. And I'm also going to be looking at the future in terms of what I'm doing on regular shows. So first of all, let's talk about the workshop which I'm putting together, Trans and Non-Binary Inclusion Workshop on the 20th of October. And I've set this up on the basis that you pay what you can afford. I think we're all facing lots of challenges at the moment. Lots of people, lots of businesses not earning very much money, lots of people not being able to earn much. And to be honest, we're in very uncertain times. I have no idea how this winter is going to go. But one thing can be certain, it's going to be a bit tough. And I know a lot of my friends in the speaking industry are now talking about resilience and doing resilience training. And to some extent, the Trans Awareness and Non-Binary Inclusion Workshop is also about resilience. It's about how do we cope? How do we make the environment more inclusive for people? Just to give you an outline of what's going to be in that workshop, because would really like to see you coming along. It's coping with being trans and non-binary. When I did my master's degree back in 2005-06, this was the focus of my dissertation. It was an MSc that I did, and that meant it was a research-based master's degree, almost like a mini PhD. I had to look, and I researched, I interviewed 10 trans women in Hull, all sorts of different stages within their life and what they were doing. I interviewed a huge number of people and engaged almost on well, it was like living in it. I was part of a community online, communities which frankly don't exist anymore. The forums and things that existed then seem to have disappeared. Things have become a lot bigger. But then there were just 1 or 2 very highly focused forums, and I was able to get a lot of information from there. There was about 2,000 or 3,000 trans people on there, but I was a very active poster. I got a lot of information. A lot of it was about how people just tried to cope, because back then we were looking at people being transvestite or transsexual or transgender and still trying to struggle out where we were on that spectrum. I started out cross-dressing and occasionally going out to 1 or 2 places, and it was a long time before I finally thought, no, I'm actually going to live full time. This is really what I want to do. And I think a lot of trans people find that, but we live through a huge amount of fear, and we have to face that on a daily basis. The worry of, I was talking to somebody this morning about covering. This whole idea that you have to cover the parts of your life you don't want to share with people. And it's not just trans. People who are gay have this, people who are Muslim have to cover up the fact that they're Muslim in the workplace. People cover all the time things that they're not comfortable that other people know about them, and so they have to live in this world where they're constantly monitoring and checking everything they say and do in case they accidentally give away what's going on. If you think about it, if you're a police officer undercover, that's what you're having to do all the time, constantly making sure that you don't give away who you are. Well, very often people in normal daily life are so afraid of who they really are and the consequences of letting people know who they really are. They have to cover it. So we'll be dealing with some of that and understanding what that's like for the people that you might have in your office, people who you may not know are trans, things that they're living for. So this whole living with fear aspect. We're going to look into sex and gender. I've been dealing with that on some of the shows. the shows will continue to address things, but we'll probably get into more detail, and most of the shows in the future are going to be interviewing guests and looking at how their different lived experiences. So this will supplement very much. If you attended the workshop, it won't be the same content. You'll get different content from here, and in a lot more detail. So probably more, you'll pick and choose between the shows that you want to go to. But understanding sex and gender, the myths and reality, what's it all about? Because everybody gets this wrong, and they really do. And so many of the arguments and battles I see going on Twitter and on Facebook are purely because people don't understand the difference between sex and gender. And once you get to understand it, it just makes a lot more sense, and we can stop some of the silly arguments. So we'll thrash that out and look at that. We're going to look at social identity, stereotypes, labels, and pronouns. Social identity, that sense of who you are in relation to the groups that you are a part of. And we all do. We join different groups, and whether it's the broad group of male and female, because that's a gender identity, or whether it's because you're English, because you're white, because you're black, because you're whatever it is, these are all parts of our identity, and our social identity connects with those. But that brings about lots of problems with stereotypes. What does it mean to, when you say someone's gay, what picture does that put in someone's mind? If someone's trans, what image do we have on our mind? Why, when we say it's a women's clothes, why do we instantly think, oh, well, that's a group of clothes which men don't wear? So why do we make those stereotypical assumptions about things? And what can we do about those? And that then leads us on to labels and pronouns and the whole thing. But all of this is an important part of what's going on in the office. By getting this wrong, by making assumptions and judgments and reacting to people in a stereotypical way, that's what causes unrest, discomfort, makes people feel that they're not safe at work, or this is not a friendly place. So we'll look at that. We're going to tackle a little bit about the Equality Act, Gender Recognition Act. Again, I've done some of this on these shows, but that will be trying to understand not the details of the law. That's not necessary. We can get this down to really practical understandings. What does the law mean in day-to-day practice? What does it mean we have to do? And that leads us on very much to the whole area of discrimination, harassment, victimization, the law in practice. What is harassment? How can we avoid having that? Because we have a duty to prevent discrimination, harassment, and victimization. For some, it's a legal duty. For all of us, I think it's a moral duty to stop the discrimination, harassment, and victimization. And sadly, the past 5 years, we have seen an increase in that. And I think it's time we started to redress that balance and tackle it. And very often what that means is that all of us have to start standing up and supporting and allying with people who are being discriminated and harassed and victimized. And that's sometimes difficult. But if we don't do it for them, then we can't expect them to do it for us. And most of us are in a group where we may get discrimination, harassment, and victimization. And ultimately, it's about creating an inclusive workshop. So we'll bring all of that together to look at what can we do in the workplace to make the whole environment more inclusive, so that people bring their whole self to work. Not just a part of them. They come, they enjoy being there. They know they can be open, that what they say isn't going to cause a backlash against them. Doesn't mean that they're going to suddenly be in trouble. And then there'll be plenty of time for Q&A, which will be set up. Some of those, I've got questions and scenarios which I set up on the workshop for us to discuss and think about. And I'm happy to take questions in of any kind. So any questions you've got, we'll deal with them. And the time on the workshop is about 2 hours, but if people want to stay, want to have further quick Q&A, I'm more than happy to deal with that. So it's an opportunity to get actual questions answered, and I'm more than happy to deal with that. So that's the workshop. 20th of October. You'll find the details if you look down in the details of this show below, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. You'll find a link that takes you to the Eventbrite page. Book yourself in. And you choose how much you pay. That's the whole idea. It's based on the donation basis. I quite like this. I watched Amanda Palmer's TED talk, and if you get a chance, Amanda Palmer, look at her TEDx talk. Amazing talk. And just to give you some sense, this is a a woman who's a musician, and she said, well, I'm not going to charge people, just pay me what you can. And on one occasion, she was trying to raise some funds for a big project that they were doing, music project, and she'd built a big following. Let's be clear about this. But when she went to raise, to do that, she raised an enormous sum of money from the crowdfunding of that, simply not by charging people, but just simply saying, look, help, this is where we are. And that's what I'm saying. I'm putting these together. I'm trying to make sure that there's available the kind of information you need to make your workplace more environment. But, like all of us, we've got to try and survive. So I'm just asking, pay what you can. And, I'm pretty much saying, £20 minimum is recommended. But if you can't afford that, fine. Just do what you can. I really want to see people there. I want to help people understand and tackle these issues and be able to help and support the people in your workplace. So what else are we going to be tackling? Well, I'm going to move on now to be doing less frequent shows of this. I'll explain a little bit about why that is in a minute. It's less frequent in the sense there may actually be more shows. But what I'm doing is I'm going to put a schedule in that says on every Wednesday, and I'll stick at 4 o'clock for the moment. So it seems to be a quite good time. I'm trying to do shows that actually are a reasonable time for people in the UK, but also for people in Europe, for people in America, because one of the great things about lockdown, one of the great things about doing things online is all of a sudden I'm getting inquiries from all over the world for speaking, where previously that wouldn't have been a possibility because the travel and expenses of traveling would have just been too significant. In fact, the sheer pressure of all that traveling. I've done international speaking for a living. Sounds really sexy, doesn't it? Sounds really exotic, shooting off to different parts of the world. Trust me, 1.5 days traveling on trains and buses and planes and into a hotel, do your workshop, do your conference, back to the airport and back the same route again. 3-4 days of travel, really, really tiring. It's you don't actually get to see the place. You just see the inside of air-conditioned units from one place to the next. So I'm actually quite liking the idea of being able to spin around the world, but actually not leave my dining room. So there we go. Wednesdays are going to be the interviews, mostly interviews, chats about gender issues. And I've got quite a few possible people lined up for that. On Sundays, I'm going to carrying on with my little LGBTQ history show. I really love LGBTQ. Good job. Some people are going LGBTQIAFF2SR. It's a whole alphabet soup. We'll have a look into all of that. It's not just LGBT history. I want to look at cultures and different things. We'll look at the Hydra, the travesty in Brazil. And, in November, we've got Trans Memorial Day. So we'll look at some of the sad parts of things, but we'll look at some of the happy parts, coming out day. I want to basically look at what's in the news and what's going on related to LGBT and LGBT history. And those are going to be that's going to be my Sunday show, very much a history show. And we'll pick up news along the way. And from time to time, if something comes up, I'll do an extra show and put it in. This is all going to be available on my YouTube channel. It's all available there now. I'm also turning each of the episodes into a podcast episode. Those I've got about halfway through those. I'm at 14. So I've got the other half still to do. But they'll be out fairly soon, and then they'll be regularly coming out as a podcast show. And that's the way we're going. Now, I'm also now going to add in and working on a second thing. I have 2 areas of expertise in my life. One is about the gender and, working in gender. The other, of course, is about public speaking, which I've been doing now for over 40 years. So I'm going to start the public speaking shows, and they will start coming in. I haven't got those scheduled in yet, but I will tell you more about those as they come. But I'm going to be doing some shows to help people overcome fear of speaking, and I'm actually going to do some free Zoom workshops on that, just to tackle overcoming that fear of speaking. And then there'll be more extended programs which will ask for a little bit of payment. So there we go. Trans and non-binary inclusion workshop, 20th of October. Check out the details below. Look forward to seeing you there. I shall be back here on the Sunday, which is the 4th of October, with the LGBT, first of my LGBTQ history shows. Might do a little bit of new branding for that or something. So we'll keep the. I'm quite enjoying what I'm doing with this. It's been fun being online. I'm going to keep this one fairly short because that's it. That's really the whole goal of this, was to talk through the workshops. Please do come along. That'd be really, really great. It's great to see you there, and keep coming to the shows. Thank you very much for being with me so far, and hope you'll carry on supporting and being here with the shows as we progress into the future. Okay, take care, and I shall look forward to seeing you all on Sunday if you can be with me. Take care.